Hi everyone, my name is Ellie. Welcome back to my channel. From last week we had some ingredients left and I added $10 budget to cover the ingredients for this week. So I got really lucky and managed to get a lot of reduced stuff. I got bacon for $1, I got sausage links for $1, pork sausage, Beyond Burger, reduced cheese, reduced coconut cream, everything reduced. I'm adding some white flour from my pantry and a few eggs. So this brings us to a total of $10-ish. I will put all the prices in the description below. And I'm back in the corner here. We have flour, we don't have many eggs, so let's make pasta. Since we're shy on eggs, I'm gonna go lightly with the pasta and make a little bit less of it. So I'm using roughly 1.5 cup of flour. That goes in my stand mixer. I'm gonna put in 2 eggs. 1 tablespoon of olive oil and some salt, just a pinch. And first I will lightly stir it, probably on speed 2. I have my KitchenAid, it's kind of my favorite toy right now. I really like to use it, but if you don't have it, you can always just use store-bought pasta. It's much cheaper and much quicker. I will also help by pushing the flour off the edges. I want most of the flour to be gently incorporated before I put it on higher speed. Few minutes later and it still seems quite dry. There is quite a lot of flour left, so I'm gonna put in 1 tablespoon of water. 10 minutes in, your dough should be nice and soft without lumps, so we can take it out. I'll put the dough now on some floured surface and knead it by hand just a minute or so. This will feel pretty hard, but we're gonna let it rest in the fridge now for 30 minutes and this will make it much softer. But first I have to wrap it in some cling film with a little bit of oil on it. It's been 30 minutes since our dough went into the fridge and you can see now that it's much more pliable and softer. I will split this into parts. So I have half here and half will go back into the fridge until next use. I will put some flour here and kind of pat it down. These will get quite long. So if this is your first time making it, I would recommend to just cut it in half again before you put it through, so it's gonna be easier to catch. You want to make it into kind of like a rectangle shape to start. You want it really well dusted with flour so it doesn't get stuck. I will start with 2 so it doesn't go too fast, and my machine is set up to 1. You want to start with 1 because that is your thickest setting, and if you put it on anything less or start with 4 or 5, it's gonna tear your dough. So you want to push through your dough for a couple of times, and in between, for the first 2 or 3 times, I kind of fold it once into another rectangle, and that makes your dough a little bit stronger. So you can do that for the first couple of times and then just increase the settings until you get to the thinness of the pastry that you desire. It is best to run your dough through the machine 2 to 3 times on each setting and flour the dough every time before you put it in. The dough gets quite long, so I normally cut it in equal lengths, usually in 3 pieces or how long you want your linguine or spaghetti to be. I want a thicker cut for this meal, so I'm putting it through the linguine cutter setting on my machine. And our pasta is beautiful and ready. I will let it sit here until I make the sauce. And for the linguine, I'm making a bacon creamy sauce. We obviously don't have cream, so I'm using the coconut powder that I found. And I sliced into small cubes half of the pack of our bacon. We're not using oil here because the bacon already has a lot of grease in it. So I just put it in a cold pan and wait for it to sizzle and start melting itself down until it becomes all nice and crunchy. When that happens, you can take the bacon out of the pan and also half of that bacon grease because it's gonna be quite a lot and you don't want it to overpower your dish. If you don't like it, you can take it out completely and just replace it with vegetable or olive oil. Now to the hot grease, I'm gonna add half of a large chopped white onion and fry that until golden and crispy. And in the meantime, we can also boil a pot of water with a pinch of salt for our pasta. The onions will take about 8 minutes and the pasta only about a minute or two. Homemade fresh pasta cooks very quickly, so it should be done within 1 or 2 minutes or when you can see it coming up to the surface. Just be careful to add it in small batches in the hot water because if you put in a large batch, you might find out that it's gonna stick together and become like a big lump of dough. So you want boiling water and small batches of your linguine here. While I'm waiting for the pasta to cook, I will add some garlic to our crispy onions. Fry that for another minute and add the bacon. The bacon is normally quite salty, so I'm not gonna add any salt at this point, but I will, however, add some pepper and Italian seasoning. I will roast the seasoning and everything together for a minute. Before we put in our cream, my coconut powder didn't have any instructions on powder water ratio, so I mixed it with 1 cup of hot water. So if it's too much, we're gonna wait for it to evaporate and make the sauce thicker, or if it's not enough, we can just always add a little bit more water. We can let it cook for 10 minutes, and in the meantime, I will grate some of that hard Greek cheese and add it into our sauce. From what I've read, this cheese doesn't melt, so it's not gonna make our sauce thicker, but we can still add it in for extra flavor and grate some on top as well. Cook it for another 10 minutes with the cheese or until it becomes the consistency and the thickness of your liking, and your meal is ready to be served. And since we already had a pretty good warm-up with our pasta maker, let's continue there and make some spaghetti and meatballs from our remaining pasta dough. If you don't have a pasta maker, you can just use store-bought pasta, or if you have flour and eggs, you can make the dough at home, roll it out very thinly and cut it in equal shapes. Maybe you're gonna get linguine out of it, but hey, it's homemade. And for the meatballs, I'm gonna use the reduced pork sausage. We're gonna put a little bit more seasoning on it, make it extra delicious. Let's start with our pasta now. And same thing pretty much, we floured our dough and we're gonna put it through the machine until we reach the right thickness. Then I will fold it in kind of like similar sizes so we can put it through the spaghetti cutter. And there you have it. I should have probably caught them with something, but we'll eat those too. And we have 2 portions of beautiful spaghetti. And for our pork, I will season it with some paprika, Italian seasoning, ground pepper, and cayenne pepper for a little bit of spiciness. Since these are cut in pretty much equal sizes, I will just take one out and mix it with the seasoning and shape a bowl. Wouldn't hurt to oil your hands a little bit in this process. Our meatballs are shaped and they'll go in hot oil. We will fry them for a few minutes from every side until they get nice and golden. Once partially cooked, you can take them out, and in the pan goes half of a chopped onion, 1 large grated carrot, and 3 cloves of chopped garlic. Saute it on medium heat for about 5 minutes and season it with some salt. You don't want to overdo it with the seasonings because the pork sausage meat, it's already pretty seasoned. And we added some extra seasoning as well, so just be mindful of that. After the carrots have melted down, I'm adding a small can of tomato sauce and about half cup of water. You want some more liquid to the sauce because it will cook for a little while, and if you don't add any water, it will evaporate all the liquid from the tomato sauce. That will make it a little bit too strong. I also always add 1 teaspoon of sugar into a tomato sauce because you want to break the acidity from it. And I'm also adding some Italian seasoning, oregano, pepper, and paprika. Stir it all well together to incorporate all the ingredients and add in your meatballs. I will cover it here and let it cook or simmer on very low heat for 20 minutes. I boiled some water for the pasta. Just make sure that the spaghetti is very well floured so they don't stick together when you put them in hot water. Pasta water is gold when you're making sauces, so make sure to add a little bit to your sauce to make it a little bit more creamy. Cook it for another 5 minutes and you're ready to eat. I will grate some of that Greek cheese on it instead of Parmesan cheese, put on some greens, and I'm just gonna enjoy dinner right now. These ingredients made 2 portions and the total was $2.35. Thank you for watching and join me next time when I will be making dumplings amongst other things, or at least I'll try. I've never made them before, so wish me luck and I will see you then.